Meantime, President Trump took something of a victory lap in a wide-ranging press conference today at the White House, as did some of his advisors, following those Supreme Court decisions. Christina Coleman is live here in L.A. with those details tonight. Good evening, Christina.
Hi, good evening, Jonathan. Yes, in a 6-3 decision along ideological lines, the Supreme Court limited federal judges' ability to block executive actions with nationwide injunctions, and specifically regarding the Trump administration's efforts to ban birthright citizenship.
Ending birthright citizenship, which now comes to the fore, that was meant for the babies of slaves. It wasn't meant for people trying to scam the system and come into the country on a vacation.
The Supreme Court made it clear that its ruling today did not address whether Trump's executive order banning birthright citizenship is constitutional. A number of district court judges have issued nationwide injunctions to block the Trump administration's policies on a variety of issues, including efforts to ban birthright citizenship. And just take a look at just how many more injunctions have been issued against President Trump in his second term alone compared to other presidents.
Most of these nationwide injunctions have come from a small handful of very hard left district court judges in just 4 or 5 cities like Los Angeles, Boston, San Francisco, Chicago. No one in America consented to be ruled by a district court judge in Chicago or Manhattan or Los Angeles or San Francisco.
And again, today's ruling is expected to have major implications for U.S. district courts. Jonathan?
Thanks, Christina. Great to have you here. Let's bring in Pepperdine University School of Public Policy Dean Pete Peterson, along with former California Senate Majority Leader Gloria Romero. Great to see you both, the A-team, in the House tonight. Pete, you think President Trump's tired of winning, to coin a phrase of his own, yet?
It certainly seems so. He obviously burst into the press gallery there and wanted to take that victory lap, as you said. It's just been an incredible week if you start with the strikes on Iran, a very successful NATO trip, and of course seeing the results from the SCOTUS rulings. It seems both domestically and in foreign policy, the president is scoring a bunch of wins.
Yeah, let's look at one of them specifically, Gloria. The win that he got with the no more injunctions from district courts, basically. We just talked about what Chuck Schumer said in our previous segment. Here's Stephen Miller responding to Chuck Schumer, essentially saying it was a bad day for democracy. Here's Stephen Miller.
Chuck Schumer is cheering for district court tyranny. Chuck Schumer doesn't want to win a national election. Chuck Schumer wants to be able to install a single district court judge in a far left community to make decisions for the whole country. That is authoritarianism. That is fascism. That is not freedom. That is not American democracy.
So who is cheering for democracy here? The Republicans or the Democrats? Who's right?
Well, I think at the end of the day, it shows that the Constitution is more powerful than simply putting on a black robe. I mean, it's really interesting to see the response. I was excited by this ruling. It's a common sense ruling. This should be an American decision, rooting for this decision overall. So Democrats are unhappy right now. Republicans are happy. But really, I think Americans are happy that at last the Constitution stands for something.
Interesting. And Pete, we saw, turning to another subject, the economy and tariffs, etc. We saw President Trump putting Canada on notice once again today. The fight goes on, it seems. But there seems to be shifting focuses and thoughts on tariffs. The president had a really interesting exchange with our own Lucas Tomlinson. Let's listen to that now.
Mr. President, a leading global economist just did a 180 and says your tariff plan, you may have outsmarted everybody with it. What is your message?
I love this. I love this question. This is the favorite. This is the best question I've ever been asked, because I've been going through abuse for years on this.
But Mr.
Because as you know, we're taking in hundreds of billions of dollars, no inflation whatsoever.
But Mr. President, what is your message to critics who think your tariff plan will cause a recession?
I think they should go back to business school.
Lucas Tomlinson, of course, always asks the best questions. But Pete, is the president right that everybody else should go, or everybody who's criticized him should go back to business school?
Well, I think some of the criticisms initially really missed the point, and President Trump said this over and over again. the tariffs were a strategy to get to free and fair trade. And I think what a lot of Americans have learned, that even with countries where the tariff rates are similar, there are a lot of ways that other countries are prohibiting and inhibiting our ability to trade with them. And so tariffs were always a strategy. They weren't an end goal. And I think what we're seeing with a lot of the deals that are being signed, apparently this new deal with China, certainly with other countries, is you're seeing a rebalancing towards free and fair trade between the United States and other countries.
Gloria, there are still economists out there who say that the tariffs are going to lead to inflation. There is a good deal of polling still out there that says people of the general public is still very worried about inflation and the cost of living. So is there just a natural lag here?
Well, there's going to be opinions galore, but I think at this point, the old saying, follow the money. And right now, the money is coming in, the money is rolling in. I think the Trump derangement syndrome translates to tariff derangement syndrome. As the dean pointed out, it was a strategy. It's been successful. This is the guy who wrote The Art of the Deal. And with Secretary Bessent at his side, I think it really shows it's a dynamic duo. Talk about the real A-team. This is a team that knew what they were doing, and they are bringing home the money for the American people.
Yeah, Pete, do you share in that optimistic view that things are headed in the right direction, even though people around the kitchen table are still concerned?
Well, I think we're still dealing with the overhang of the inflation that was generated during the Biden administration. And we're certainly seeing here in California, when we look at gas prices and energy prices and food prices, these are issues that are actually much more California policy focused than nationally focused. And certainly what this economist that Lucas quoted before, if you read that economist's full statement, it really was a mea culpa in understanding that tariffs, just as tariffs, usually not a good idea. Tariffs as a strategy to drive towards free and fair trade, it's working.
All right, Pete, Gloria, you will always be my A-team. Thank you so much. Happy weekend to you both.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.